Ben Reilly is arguably the most famous and beloved Spider-Man clone of all time, and I'm sure you heard a lot of people say that Mafex made the perfect Ben Reilly at 6-inch scale. I'm here to find out if that's true and really dissect this figure. Let's have a look at Mafex 143 Spider-Man Ben Reilly. Ben Reilly was first introduced in 1975 as a nameless Spider-Man clone created by the Jackal. He supposedly died, but in 1994 he returned in the Spider-Man clone saga. He eventually became the main character in his own series, acting as the titular Spider-Man, while Peter Parker enjoyed a normal life. Over several years, Ben Reilly gets killed and resurrected a couple of times more in different comic book arcs and stories, where he's seen working with and against Peter Parker. In the latest comics, he's known as Chasm, but here we see him in his classic blue and red Spidey suit. I thought the box had a card insert at first, but it turns out this bright green backdrop is part of the box itself. Inside the box, there's a genuine product certificate with a QR code and a clear figure stand that requires assembly and has alternate parts. Out of the box, the figure feels solid, plastic quality is nice, and it smells like vinyl with a mix of paint. The proportions of this figure is based on the comic books, so we're getting a bulky and muscular body. He wears a blue and red suit with an engraved web design, panel lined with black paint. The large spider emblem on his chest and back looks pronounced, and you can notice shading on his musculature. Looking closely, the black paint on the spider logo seems to have missed where it should be by a few millimeters. There's noticeable paint chipping already, and I'd imagine these will just worsen as I move the figure about. The finish feels smooth with a satin finish overall. These imperfections are typical with Mafex, but I think it looks worse when compared to SH Figuarts. He has double joints on both arms and legs, which makes for a nice silhouette, but bare metal parts are exposed on the foot, which can be an eyesore. At first glance, I like the proportions and the overall look of this figure, but the paint imperfections and chipping is somewhat of a letdown. Ben Reilly's head can rotate a full 360 from the neck, has a bit of rotation at the base of the head, and can move side to side. He can look up a lot and look down this much. His arms can go up sideways to make a Y pose and has full rotation on the shoulders. He has a butterfly joint with a good range of motion going forward and back, and also has an up and down motion. His biceps can rotate a full 360. Elbows bend more than 90 degrees, which is good. And this is how it looks like at the back. Hands have a swivel function and connects to a peg, so it has full rotation. His torso can bend side to side pretty well, both on the upper and lower parts. The upper torso has full rotation and has some rotation on the abdomen. He can bend back a lot and has a very good ab crunch. Bending forward too much will expose the joints at the back. Hips have plenty of movement, and you can pull them down to accommodate more movement on the hips for more complex poses. The nappy part is soft, and this allows the legs to extend further. Legs can move forward and back this much, and he can almost do a full split side to side. His thighs can rotate all the way, and his knee bends a lot with the double joint. He has good foot swivel, with a full rotation that allows him to pivot as well. Lastly, he has a toe bend. The articulation is what you'd expect with the Mafex Spider-Man figure. The joints are tight enough to hold the position, but still easy to move around. Aside from the head with wide eyes, he comes with a Spider-Man head with squinting or angry eyes. The detailing looks similar on both heads with an even panel lining, especially at the back and the top. This is what the head socket looks like underneath. He also comes with a Ben Reilly head with the mask off, which has blonde hair, hazel eyes, and sharp jaws. The hair sculpt looks nice, and this would look good in pictures. To swap heads, simply pop the masked head from the neck and attach the unmasked one. The same goes for the Spidey heads, but this time you pop the head from the base and attach the other one back in. Closed fists are attached to this figure out of the box, but he also has some fully opened hands, relaxed hands with a peg underneath, and this is where you attach the removed mask. There's a peg hole underneath that connects to the hand. He also has web shooting hands, relaxed opened hands without the peg, web holding hands, and another pair of fully opened hands with magnets, which brings the total pairs of hands to 7. You also get an extra pair of magnetized feet. Ben Reilly has 3 pairs of web effects, a pair of short web shots, another medium-length pair, and a longer pair which can be held. They're a bit soft and could be difficult to get really straight. You attach them by taking off the hand part, putting it on through a loop at one end, and putting the hand back on. You can adjust the angle while it's on, and keep it in place by pushing the hands in further. For the longer web effects, you simply insert it to the web holding hands. Lastly, he comes with a clear stand with multiple points of articulation and various holding heads. I particularly enjoyed playing around the magnetized hands and feet. Depending on the surface of the metal, it would cling quite well and you can do a lot of poses. The minimum magnetized surface I could use to make sure it doesn't fall off is around 4. There's 1 on each hand and 2 on each foot. He can cling upside down as well. The amount of hands and accessories allows you to do a lot of poses. I'm happy with the amount of alternate heads and web effect parts as well. Mafex Spider-Man Ben Reilly is rendered at 6-inch scale and he stands at 15.5 centimeters tall, which would make him 6 feet and 1 inch tall in real life. Depending on which comic book, he is depicted as 6 feet tall or 5 feet 10 inches tall, so this height is good. Here's how he looks with SH Figuarts Spider-Man 2099 and Sentinel Peter B. Parker from the Spider-Verse animated films. Here's how he looks standing side by side with Spider-Man Noir, also from the Spider-Verse movies. This is how he stands with Devil Toy's Ghost of Kurosawa on the right and V-Toy's Red Demon Asura on the left. Here on the right we have Figma Hemet Nettle and Figma Ronin on the left, whose heights are closer to the comic book Peter B. Parker. Mafex Ben Reilly looks good with both SH Figuarts and Sentinel Spider-Man lines. He should look alright and in scale with other figure lines in 1:12 scale. For a more in-depth comparison, Mafex Ben Reilly is obviously bulkier when compared with Sentinel Peter B. Parker. Muscles are more pronounced and every body part is just wider. Peter B. Parker looks skinny but has a better silhouette on the shoulders. The heads are both in proportion with their respective bodies, but with Mafex you can see the outline of the nose, mouth, and jaws, and this is non-existent with Sentinel. The legs are similar in design, but Mafex is still more muscular. In terms of articulation, they have a similar design language on most parts, and both are quite flexible, but Sentinel can do just a little bit more. The inspiration for these figures are entirely different and preference for one another is therefore a subjective choice. I prefer the Mafex proportion better and it's easier to pose, but Sentinel has slightly better articulation, has good paint finish, and has better overall build quality. There's no denying that the proportions look really good with this figure, and I quite enjoyed posing and playing with it. The parts feel solid but also flexible. The weight balance is good and the feet rests flat on the table. He has tight joints so it's easy to do various poses. For an action figure that's almost 3 years old, it sets a good example on how Spider-Man figures should be in terms of articulation and playability. You can do a lot with it. Sentinel's Spider-Man Peter B. Parker is just slightly better in terms of articulation. But I guess the main drawback is that the moving parts touch each other most of the time, especially on his torso, and this leads to paint chipping off various parts with friction. I got this figure brand new and then opened, and it seems the paint bleeds, paint chipping, and uneven panel lining is a quality control issue. This could be potentially fixed by repainting, but is it worth it to go through all that trouble for the cost? To say the least, I'm a bit disappointed and I hope Mafex can improve the quality of their paint finish. This figure would have been perfect if not for the paint issues. I totally dig this figure's comic book proportions, especially the heads, and I enjoyed playing with it more than the other Spidey figures I have. The even weight distribution and sturdy joints contribute to a seamless experience when posing. The silhouette looks good thanks to the joint engineering and sculpt, and the magnetized parts are a nice bonus. This figure is far from perfect though because of the glaring paint imperfections. You might have to repaint some parts if you want it to look better. But if you really like Ben Reilly, I think this is still the best figure you can get of him at 1:12 or 6-inch scale. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, comment, and share as this will help me grow my channel. Let me know if you agree or disagree with what I said, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Stay calm, relax, and make sure to unwind from time to time. My name's Al, and I'll see you on the next one.